After my fiancé, Ethan, publicly called off our engagement, I immediately withdrew the secret investments I had made in his company. While he was frantically calling to reconcile, my childhood sweetheart, Henry, who had just left the military, answered his phone, a cigarette dangling from his lips. "Call my wife again, and you'll regret it." After threatening him, he tossed his phone aside, knelt on the bed, and pinched my chin. "Look at the kind of jerk you fell for. Can he do what I can? You were dumped? And in front of so many people? What an idiot Ethan is." On the phone, my sister Sarah's voice was truly too loud, so I held my phone farther away. Once she had calmed down a bit, I slowly brought my phone back. I suppose it should have been heartbreaking news. But from the moment I received it until now, I hadn't felt any sadness. In fact, I even felt a sense of relief. Because before this, I had realized I was growing more and more disgusted by Ethan's touch. "Yeah, we broke up. He said he didn't like me anymore." Sarah scoffed. "He doesn't like you. He's found a more lucrative prospect." "Luna, I told you last time, keep an eye on your man. You didn't listen to me, and now look what happened, you were publicly dumped. Do you know what people in our social circle are saying about you? You're a laughingstock." I rolled over in bed, saying nonchalantly, "It's fine. Everyone will forget about it after a while anyway. And don't you think fate is helping me?" "Helping you with what? Helping you see Ethan for the jerk he is?" "Exactly. If this hadn't happened, I might not have discovered Ethan's true nature until after we were married. By then, it would have been too late to regret it." Sarah let out a snort. "Silly girl, just keep consoling yourself. Anyway, I won't let him off easy for this. Don't interfere with what happens next, and don't go soft when the jerk begs for mercy, okay?" I covered my ears. "Got it, I wasn't planning on letting him off anyway." "I see. I'll let you today because I want you to pull all the investments I made in his company. At least you've got some fight in you." After hanging up with Sarah, I stared blankly at the ceiling. Ethan and I met in college. He was the one who pursued me. He used to say he disliked spoiled, entitled socialites and looked down on privileged heirs who made their way with family connections. So, I kept my family background a secret. But my usual lifestyle and expenses must have clued Ethan in that my family wasn't simple. Over the years, he subtly and not so subtly asked me for quite a bit of money. However, in the adult world, money alone isn't enough, you also need influence. So, even though I secretly invested heavily in Ethan's company, he still abandoned me and ran into the arms of my rival, Victoria. All because she was wealthy and influential. But what Ethan didn't realize was that my family was far more powerful and influential than hers. He simply never bothered to ask. And on my birthday, in front of many people, he announced he was calling off our engagement. Since our engagement was just a private dinner with a few friends, calling it off was also quite simple. At the time, I was grateful Sarah wasn't there that day, otherwise, Ethan wouldn't have walked out alive. But the one thing I hadn't expected was that people from our social circle were also at the hotel dinner that day. As for whether I knew them, I happened to know them. Especially the guy standing at the very front, the most gossipy busybody of them all. Sure enough, that night, the news spread throughout our circle. As for why Sarah's call only came today, it was because she had been on a business trip abroad for the past few days, too busy even to reply to my messages. She certainly wasn't in the mood to listen to gossip. Ugh, Luna, you're really useless. I couldn't compare to my peers in school, couldn't compare to my colleagues at work, and the one time I fell in love, I picked a jerk. What a tragedy. See life. I turned off my phone and tossed it aside. I said I wasn't sad, but we had been together for so many years after all. We were almost about to reach a happy ending, and then he pulled this stunt. I might as well have listened to my friend's advice and found a kept man. No need to get emotionally involved, just physical. As I rolled over and burrowed into my comforter, a tear slipped from the corner of my eye, quickly disappearing as if it had never been there. Falling into a hazy sleep, I had a dream. In it, a tall figure, familiar yet strange, deftly pinched my nose. Then he scoffed, "Luna, you get bullied and don't even come to me, huh?" I blindly reached out and touched the man's palm. The rough calluses made my fingertips ache slightly. "Still touching? Have you forgotten about me? If you dare to forget me, you'll be sorry when I get back." The face before me gradually came into focus. It was my childhood sweetheart, Henry. In the dream, I woke up abruptly, my pupils shrinking. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, feeling a deep exhaustion. Why was I suddenly dreaming of Henry? And how did he know I was being bullied? Honestly, I rolled over and fumbled for my phone under the pillow. Turning it on, a flood of messages instantly poured in, most of them using comfort as an excuse to pry for gossip. I didn't reply to any of them. Scrolling down, I saw a message from Sarah. Sarah, oh, I forgot to tell you something. Henry is back today, but my place is a mess, so I told him to stay with you for a while. Sarah, he should arrive around evening. Remember to open the door for him. Just as I finished processing those 2 sentences, there was a knock at the door. Very few people knew where I lived, so without even thinking, I knew who was standing at the door. My eyes darted across the room. If that neat freak saw this, he'd make me clean the entire place in minutes. I shot up from the bed, tossing the living room items into my bedroom. Then I adjusted my clothes and slowly made my way to the door. The moment the knocking sounded again, I reached out and pulled the door open. An intense, oppressive presence washed over me. I hadn't expected him to be standing so close. I looked up at Henry. His chiseled face seemed covered with a layer of frost. His military aura made my legs feel weak. I propped myself against the doorframe. Hey, Henry, long time no see. Henry didn't reply immediately. Instead, he looked down at me, his gaze sweeping over my face, making me feel a bit shy. Before my face could even blush, I turned several shades paler from his next mocking remark. Long time no see? Luna, is this how you take care of yourself? I told you before not to get close to men. Where did that go in one ear and out the other? His overwhelming presence made my legs feel weak. Henry had always been tall, and after all these years, he seemed even taller. Did he still grow taller in the military? But more than that, I cared about who had told Henry everything. Good news travels slow, bad news travels fast. Even someone who doesn't check their phone or listen to gossip like him knew. Surely everyone else must know too. My mood instantly soured. My surprise at seeing Henry was quickly overshadowed by disappointment. Just come in, change your shoes and close the door. With that, I turned and walked away, sitting on the love seat. Henry brought his luggage inside and stood by the door, scanning my shoe rack. He didn't move for a while. Just as I wondered if he didn't recognize the slippers, he said, "Those slippers aren't your ex-fiancé's, are they?" I rolled my eyes, exasperated. I'm not an idiot, I wouldn't keep something like that in my house. Are you crazy? They're new. Though those slippers were just a pair I'd accidentally grabbed in the wrong size when buying some for myself. No one else had visited, so they'd been sitting there. Now that Henry was back, they finally had a purpose. Henry slowly put on the slippers, giving E the impression that he hadn't just come from the military. Where was that decisive and efficient demeanor? Now he seemed no different from any other man. After changing his shoes, Henry sat across from me. His gaze settled on my face. I felt a guilty conscience and wanted to look away, feeling like a friend was laughing at my misfortune. Since the breakup, I hadn't met up with any friends. While I knew they wouldn't mock or ridicule me, I also didn't want to see pity in their eyes. This whole thing wasn't that big a blow to me, just a bit embarrassing. So I avoided Henry's gaze, trying to find something else to distract myself. Tell you what? Tell me about that jerk, Luna. You know I can't stand anyone bullying you. Listening to his familiar voice, I felt a sting in my nose. Henry and I had grown up together, and before he joined the military, we went to school together. Back then, whenever I was bullied, Henry was always the one to stand up for me. He was even quicker than Sarah. But after he joined the military, no one did that for me anymore. While would also stand up for me, she was very busy with work, and I didn't want to bother her with such trivial matters. So I gradually learned to deal with these unpleasant things on my own. Even though I was touched, I still retorted, I wasn't bullied, and this isn't school anymore. You can't just go beat him up, can you? The spot next to me dipped as Henry moved from across to sit beside me. He reached out and ruffled my hair. Silly, why not? I could throw a sack over his head tonight and beat him up. I know how to hurt someone the most now. I looked at Henry's face, amused. Did you join the military to serve the country or to learn how to beat people up? I learned how to protect you. Henry's gaze was intense, and for a moment, I didn't know what to say. He seemed to be saying this very seriously. All right, I really didn't mean it, and Sarah has already taught him a lesson, I said slowly. Henry raised an eyebrow. How did she teach him a lesson? She pulled all his investments. He values his career the most. Without my help, I wonder how far he can go. Though with support from my rival, Victoria, he might still manage. But that was all I could do. That simple? Huh? Just wait. I'll make him kneel and beg for mercy in front of you. Seeing showing off, I felt like I was back in high school. Suddenly, I had to admit that what he said before joining the military wasn't entirely baseless. Too bad I fell in love back then. Go and unpack. Henry settled into the guest room. The apartment was quite large to begin with. I only lived in the master bedroom. Sarah used to stay occasionally, but she hadn't visited in a long time after she got busy with work. Now it was convenient for Henry. Even though we had known each other for many years, suddenly living together naturally meant we had to set some ground rules. Ground rules? I hugged my stuffed animal and nodded. After all, you're an adult male, and we're both unmarried. It's a bit inappropriate. Henry tossed the clothes he was holding. His tall figure walked towards me. I swallowed hard, a strange feeling instantly surging within me. I took a step back with each of his movements, until my back hit the wall, with no way to retreat. Henry looked down at me. The scent of body wash, familiar to me, clung to him. He hadn't bought new ones, he was using mine. The intimate atmosphere made my face flush and feel hot. What are you doing? What am I doing? You said you wanted to set ground rules. Say them now. I turned my head, avoiding Henry's gaze. Why did it feel like since he left the military, he'd learned how to show off? Always attractive. First, don't stand so close to me. I pushed Henry away. The firm touch beneath my palm made me genuinely exclaim, what a great physique. Second, wear proper clothes at home. Third, you cook. Although the last rule was due to my selfish reasons, I said it with any guilty conscience. After all, Henry used to be a great cook. In high school, I often went to his place to freeload on meals. Henry crossed his arms, raising an eyebrow at me. Only these 3 rules? I swallowed hard, lacking confidence. Yes, just these 3. Fine. The next second after his words fell, Henry wrapped his arm around my waist, pulling me close in front of him. I was about to say he was breaking the rules when I heard him drawl. I only said I couldn't get too close to you, but I didn't say you couldn't get too close to me. I was dumbfounded. He could find loopholes like that? Henry leaned in close to me. The distinct male scent made me involuntarily stiffen my body. When I was with Ethan, I had never felt this way. Luna, do you want to try me out? Henry's words made my entire body stiffen. Although there was still some safe distance between us, I felt as if he were practically touching me. I could even hear his heartbeat. I wondered whose heart was beating faster, mine or Henry's. I swallowed hard. Try what? Henry suddenly tugged my hair. It didn't hurt much, but it still made me frown. You know, Luna. I know? I know what? My mind was a complete mess right now. What could I possibly know? Had lost his wits in the military, or was he overestimating me? I felt truly annoyed. Instead of playing guessing games here, I might as well ask directly. I don't know. If you can say it, say it. If you can't, let go of me. I need to rest. Henry loosened his grip slightly. I thought he was going to let me go. Who knew he still held my wrist tightly? There was no escaping. Because of serving in the military, Henry's palms were rough, covered with calluses. The rubbing against the inside of my wrist made my whole body feel itchy. Luna, you're still as impatient as ever. I could see he was genuinely a bit angry. But I wasn't even angry yet, so why was he getting angry? Was it possible he had the man flu, like a woman on her period? In that case, I could reluctantly forgive Henry's inappropriate behavior tonight. Try it, try dating me. Henry spoke Mandarin very well. I pushed his hand away. It seems I really didn't sleep well last night. I must be hallucinating you asking me to date you. I'm going back to sleep. With that, I turned and walked towards my bedroom. Before I had even taken 2 steps, he followed me. He grabbed my wrist, spun me around, and pinned me against the wall. You didn't mishear, and I didn't misspeak. I, Henry, want to date you, Luna. Do you understand? I understood, but I still couldn't believe it. Although we had grown up together, after all these years, we had barely seen each other. To come back and immediately say he wanted to date me. It was hard not to suspect something. Did hire you to help me quickly get over being dumped? Oh, you guys worry too much. I really don't care about that anymore. Don't. His face suddenly enlarged. Henry stopped 3 centimeters from my lips, his nose brushing against mine. The extreme proximity made me feel like if I said one more word, I'd kiss him directly. My swallowing became less noticeable. The man's gaze held an intense, invasive quality. I'm not kidding. I came back specifically for you this time. When spoke, I felt like my mind wasn't working right. I don't know how I listened to the rest of his confession, but when I got back to my room, I still hadn't fully recovered. Henry liked me, and he'd had a secret crush on me since childhood. He'd been in the military for so many years and still thought of me. Yet here I was, having dated someone, gotten engaged, and now dumped. His voice sounded so wronged when he spoke. But what did that have to do with me? He had a secret crush but never confessed, so I wasn't allowed to date? What an outrageous person. Suddenly, I remembered something. I quickly grabbed my phone and messaged Sarah. Sarah, did you know Henry liked me? Sarah, huh? He likes you? Since when? I told you before he joined the military, he kept telling me you were too young to date and to keep a close eye on you. So that's why. I paused, surprised. That was a thing? No wonder Sarah kept asking if I liked anyone when I first started college. Later, she got busy with her career and naturally stopped watching me, but I never expected to fall for a jerk like Ethan. Sarah, so you're living under the same roof with someone who's had a secret crush on you for years? Me, wasn't that your arrangement? Sarah, I don't have that much power. Henry simply contacted me saying he hadn't seen you in years, and I thought he was such a well-behaved kid growing up, so I agreed. I thought of what had just happened. Well-behaved? If he was well-behaved, then no one in the world was ill-behaved. Sarah, if you ask me, you might as well give Henry a try. You know everything about each other. If he dared to treat you badly, Uncle and Aunt wouldn't allow it. Me, don't play matchmaker. Sarah, fine, I'll just wait to eat my words then. I put my phone away, definitely in for a sleepless night. When I woke up the next day, it was already 10 o'clock in the morning. Checking my phone, Henry had messaged me at 7, saying he had to run errands and wouldn't be home for lunch. I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw that message. It was good he wasn't eating at home. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to leave my room today. I ordered some food delivery for myself. After eating, I was about to do some drawing when my phone rang. It was from a game I had previously collaborated on. There was an issue with the promotional artwork, and they asked if I could come in for an in-person discussion. Since they asked, I couldn't really refuse. So I gathered my things and left. But if I had known this trip would lead to encountering Ethan and his new girlfriend, I would never have left the house. Thank you for coming all this way. Could you please send the revised version to my email after you? Redone? Okay, I'll be going then. Then I won't see you off. I have more work here. I nodded, turned, and walked out, immediately spotting a familiar figure. Before I could even dodge, Ethan was already in front of me, with my rival beside him. Victoria. Well, who is this? You didn't deliberately find out we were here trying on wedding dresses and rush over, did you? There was indeed a bridal boutique nearby. I gritted my teeth, about to retort, when Ethan's gaze, filled with pity and sympathy, fell upon me. Luna, you, wife, I haven't seen you for a while. Why did you run off here? Henry's appearance left me at a loss, whether due to his form of address or because of Ethan. I immediately saw the stunned and somewhat hurt expression on Ethan's face. But since we had already broken up, why bother with such an act? Luna, I was about to introduce Henry, but the words got stuck in my throat. If I simply introduced him as my childhood sweetheart, it wouldn't align with what Henry had just said. But to introduce him as my husband? I couldn't bring myself to say that either. You must be the one who helped take care of our Luna while I was serving in the military, right? I just got back and haven't had a chance to treat you to dinner to thank you. After all, you've been quite good to Luna all these years. Henry extended his hand, his words making Ethan's face darken even further. It was as if a single sentence had wiped away all the years of our relationship. I had no idea Henry had become so eloquent. I remembered him being a taciturn person before he joined the military. Often, I'd have to say several sentences before he'd reply to one. Seeing remain silent, he continued, "R isn't very patient, so you must have had a tough time these years. I heard your company has been having some issues recently. You can come to me if you need help." Saying this, Henry pulled a business card from somewhere. He slipped it into Ethan's hand, performing the role of a superior quite well. Ethan took Henry's business card, paused, and then his face grew even darker. It was as if he was angry that Henry was trying to suppress him in this manner. But when he saw Henry's business card, he froze completely. Victoria, standing beside him, clearly recognized Henry as the young master of the Chin family at that moment. Her expression was unusual. If you were to truly compare our family backgrounds, our two families combined couldn't match the Chin family. Naturally, she no longer wore that arrogant, showing-off demeanor she had just moments ago. Luna, Ethan looked as if he had suffered a major blow, his face pale, clutching Henry's business card. He wanted a clear answer from me. Are you two really married? Even though some time had passed, seeing him in person made me feel a pang of pity. After all, I had invested feelings in him. I turned my head, unwilling to meet Ethan's eyes. I bit my lip, not wanting to speak. But just because I didn't speak didn't mean others wouldn't. Henry was truly more talkative today. He intimately put his arm around my waist, and where others couldn't see, he pinched the soft flesh at my waist. After all these years, how could I not know what he meant? I could only look back at Ethan. Although you took care of Luna for so many years, the relationship is over. I don't want you calling my wife by her nickname anymore. I hope Mr. Ethan can remember that next time. And whether our relationship is real or not, I suppose it has no bearing on you, considering your wedding is approaching, isn't it? Henry's gaze swept over Victoria and Ethan. Sometimes, you don't need to speak to know what he means. Ethan's face grew even paler, looking no different from a corpse. If he hadn't been the one to initiate ending things with me, I would have thought I was the one who dumped him today. Let's go. What's there to talk about with your ex-girlfriend? Don't you remember why we came here today? Victoria Final. Why snapped out of it and refused to be overshadowed by Henry in front of me. She could only urge Ethan to leave. Ethan still wanted to say something, but Henry's hand on my waist tightened even more. The distance between the two of them also grew smaller. He glanced at the space between us, and finally, he could only follow Victoria away. After they left, I immediately pried Henry's hand off me. That man had been in the military for a few years, and the strength in his hands had really increased. He had squeezed my waist so hard it was quite uncomfortable. Used and discarded, huh? So heartless. Henry walked behind me, his tone carrying a roguelike charm, much like a high school delinquent. What had he gone through these past few years? He had changed completely. I didn't ask you to help me, and what were you shouting about? When did our relationship become like that? Henry dangled his car keys from his finger. Seeing me about to walk out, he simply put his arm around my shoulder. He led me towards the parking lot. What relationship? The one where I call you my wife? It's going to happen eventually anyway. Henry's matter-of-fact attitude made me wonder if he truly had the confidence of victory. I hadn't even agreed to anything, yet he was so confident. I finally understood. These past few years in the military had made him thicker-skinned, even to the point of being thick as a brick wall. Daydreaming? I'm telling you, you need to find a place and move out soon. Don't mooch off my place. Henry was truly too dangerous. If I kept him at my house, I had no idea what might happen. Oh, got it, he said resentfully. I knew you didn't get it at all. Henry drove me home. Once we arrived, I immediately retreated into my home office, ignoring whatever Henry wanted to do. Clutching my paintbrush, I couldn't draw a thing. Meeting today did make me feel a bit upset. I had thought I could quickly forget what had happened recently. But emotional matters can't just end back. As you say so. Even after raising a small animal for so many years, you develop deep feelings. How much more so with a person? Was influence really that important? All those years of companionship meant less than a resource. It was both pathetic and ridiculous. And what gave me an even bigger headache was Henry's attitude. Although I told him to move out, it was clear he wouldn't be so obedient. He would even find many excuses to stay here. Normally, I never got any unwanted attention, but at crucial times, it came in droves. Unable to draw, I simply tossed the brush aside and curled up on the love seat, reading someone else's graphic novel. But the more I read the story, the more similar it seemed to my current situation with Henry. A reunion after many years apart, living under the same roof by chance, the male lead's direct pursuit, and the female lead's rejection. It was practically an identical development. I couldn't read the graphic novel anymore. I needed to make it clear to Henry that we had no chance. So, you haven't even tried with me yet, and you already think we have no chance? I avoided Henry's gaze, not because his gaze was too intense, but because he wasn't wearing a shirt. Someone in the military wouldn't be spotless, they would have some scars. Henry was no exception, but even with scars, they only added to his charm, making him look even more masculine. My mind wandered to the continuation of the graphic novel, which seemed to be about the male lead seducing the female lead with his body, and the female lead gradually falling for him, before other plot points even began. Wasn't Henry acting exactly like this now? Or did he have a habit of not wearing a shirt after showering elsewhere? Regardless of the reason, I didn't dare to look at him right now. He was truly irresistible. Now I finally understood why Sarah always liked dating younger, assertive guys with good physiques. Who wouldn't swoon over a body like that? Someone tapped on the table. And my thoughts slowly returned. Some people don't even need a try. I already know if they're suitable or not. Anyway, you don't need to waste your time on me. If any feelings could have developed between us, they would have happened when we were kids. Why wait until now? Am I to understand that you're implying you wanted puppy love with me? Too bad, I was a good student. Even if you had confessed your feelings to me back then, I would have rejected you. I stared at Henry with wide eyes. Was that what I meant? I clearly meant that there was no possibility between us, and he should stop trying. Just as I was about to argue with him, my gaze fell upon him again. Well, the words I wanted to say instantly got stuck in my throat. The words were stuck in my throat, and I could only vexedly avert my gaze. Whatever you say. Anyway, no matter what, we have no chance. I'm going to sleep. With that, I hurried back to my room. If I didn't go back soon, I was afraid I might do something scandalous. While I generally had some self-control, who knew, tonight I might just decide to go wild. Before going to sleep, I reread that graphic novel. It was a slow serialization. It was only at the part where the male lead had just started seducing the female lead, and she was gradually falling for him. Other plots hadn't even begun. If I didn't know the author, I'd definitely go ask what happens next. After rereading it twice, I finally felt sleepy. What I didn't expect was that even when I fell asleep, my dreams were all about Henry. Truly, what you think about by day, you dream about by night. A few days later, Henry took up his post at his company. Since he hadn't had prior experience in that field, he had to learn everything from scratch, so he was spending less and less time at home. This was good news for me. But even when he wasn't home, he could still message me, sending countless messages every day. I couldn't tell if he was too busy or not busy enough. If he was too busy, how would he have time to send all these random messages? If he wasn't busy, he was still leaving early and coming back late every day. We never had a chance to see each other. However, breakfast was always promptly placed on the dining table every morning, and he also had lunch delivered for me. It shouldn't be outside food delivery, it was home-cooked and then delivered. At first, I felt a bit awkward, but the taste was truly excellent. If I missed a day, I would actually miss it. Henry said he would pursue me, and he certainly did. When he wasn't physically present, he found every possible way to make his presence known. It reminded me of when Ethan was pursuing me back then. It was the same way. Initially, I wasn't interested. He was handsome, but because of Henry, I had been immune to handsome guys since childhood. So that wasn't the reason for my attraction, but was very persistent. He brought me breakfast every morning and showed up whenever he had free time. If there was an event, he would unconditionally volunteer just to be with me. Over time, combined with never having dated before, I naturally started to feel a flutter in my heart. Looking back now, I really don't know if I chose to be with Ethan because he was constantly around or because I truly had feelings for him. I can't recall my emotional journey at the time. You really don't like Henry? I thought after a month of living together, you'd at least spark something. My sister Sarah casually sat on the couch. This small apartment already showed signs of Henry living here. How could that be? There's no way I'd ever be with him. Why? Are you still hung up on Ethan? Sarah asked. For some reason, my mind wandered when Sarah asked that question, and right at that critical moment, Henry suddenly appeared behind us. I looked at him, startled. The expression on his face told me he'd heard everything. I opened my mouth, wanting to explain, but then felt there was no need. Henry simply greeted Sarah politely, then explained he'd only come back to grab something before turning and heading back to his bedroom. He left as soon as he had his things. Watching the door close, I turned around, a hollow feeling in my chest. I also felt a little upset. Luna, you really need to figure out your own feelings. Sometimes, if you miss an opportunity, you'll regret it for the rest of your life, Sarah said. I nodded, of course I knew that. But when it came to relationships, I felt completely lost. Especially with a relationship as complicated as this one, I had no idea how to sort it out. I could only put it off. Another half a month passed with me dragging my feet. After that day, Henry seemed even busier, and he messaged me less frequently. But he wasn't completely ignoring me, so I couldn't quite figure out what he was thinking. It was as if something had changed, and yet nothing had changed. My work got busy too, so I simply decided to act as if nothing had happened. But I forgot that some things don't just disappear if you don't deal with them. Like my feelings for Henry, or Ethan, who still hadn't given up. I really hadn't expected Ethan to find my place, and even less did I expect him to suddenly embrace me after professing his longing, only for Henry to walk in and see it. A wave of panic surged through me. As turned to leave, I forcefully pushed Ethan away. Henry! Wearing my slippers, I was about to rush after him, but Ethan at the doorway grabbed my wrist tightly. Luna, I know you and that guy aren't actually together like that. So we still have a chance, don't we? You just brought him here to make me jealous, right? I stared at Ethan, wide-eyed. I couldn't believe the audacity of this man. Why would I reject Henry and then try to make Ethan jealous with some random person? I must have been out of my mind to do something like that. Seeing the elevator already descending, if I couldn't catch him, resolving this today would be incredibly difficult. I immediately pulled my hand from Ethan's grasp and warned him. Let me tell you, I lost all feelings for you a long time ago. Your touch only disgusts me, so wake up and face reality. You're not even fit to tie his shoes. With that, I slammed the door shut and hurried outside. But the elevator still hadn't arrived, so thankfully, I didn't live on a very high floor. I took the stairwell down directly. As I rushed down, my mind replayed Henry's fleeting glance, hurt, helplessness, disappointment, emotions that I'd never seen on him before. Yet, they were all there in that single look. I thought that if the person I was pursuing was hugging an ex at the door, I definitely wouldn't want to continue interacting with them either. But I didn't want things to end completely with Henry now. Damn. If and I really broke up because of this, I'd have Sarah blacklist him from our social circle. My steps grew more hurried. I was still in my pajamas. If I hadn't taken the stairs where I wouldn't run into anyone, people might have thought I was crazy. Finally reaching the ground floor, I quickly ran outside. But there was no one there. The lobby was empty, and no one was outside either. Clearly, Henry had already left. I wanted to call him, but I realized I'd rushed out so quickly that I hadn't even brought my phone. Now what? I couldn't reach him at all. The sudden intense exercise left me breathless, my eyes welling up. I wasn't sure if it was from being out of breath or just a simple urge to cry, but tears streamed from my eyes, dropping onto my hands. I finally understood what Sarah meant about not missing out on the person right in front of you. Wasn't I really going to miss each other like this? At that moment, my legs started to feel weak, unable to support my body. It felt like I could collapse onto the ground any second. I slowly squatted down, wrapping my arms around my knees, burying my face in them so no one could see it. That way, I wouldn't feel so embarrassed. Tears flowed freely, as if they were endless, quickly soaking my pants. Why are you crying? Suddenly, a familiar voice came from above me. My mind, muddled with tears, took a few seconds to process it before I sharply looked up. Henry, dressed in a suit, stood before me, leaning down slightly so I could clearly see his face. For someone who had just left to suddenly appear before me, a wave of immense surprise washed over me. I shot up, but rising too quickly, my vision blurred, and I swayed forward, about to fall. However, no impact came. Instead, I was enveloped by the scent of Henry's laundry detergent, the same as mine. I was entirely in Henry's arms. After a moment to steady myself, I slowly began to pull away from his embrace. But then, remembering what had just happened, I decisively decided to stay right there in his arms. Not getting up? How long are you planning to take advantage of me? I wasn't sure if it was my imagination, but I thought Henry's tone had a hint of a smile. Even though he said that, I simply didn't want to get up. If he ran off again, I wouldn't be able to find him at all. At least this way, I could prevent him from leaving. I clung tightly to Henry's suit jacket. My legs are weak, I can't stand up. The hand that had been gripping him suddenly relaxed, and I leaned into Henry's embrace, feeling perfectly content. Henry, half helpless and half amused, said, "You just hugged your ex-boyfriend, and now you're hugging me, Luna? What do you take me for?" Hearing his words, I instantly sobered up. This wasn't the time for banter. The important thing was to explain everything to Henry right now. It wasn't like what you just saw. I didn't want to hug him, he just suddenly came at me, and I didn't react quickly enough. I already made it clear to him that this time he came to get back together. I told him there's no way that'll happen between us. He's not even fit to tie your shoes. Please don't be angry, I really didn't mean for it to happen. I promise I'll never see him again. From now on, wherever Ethan is, I won't be. I even thought about having Sarah move his company out of town, but with Victoria involved, that might not be so simple. Then I'll just tell the apartment building security. From now on, if they see him, they should just keep him out. Just as I was brainstorming how to get rid of Ethan, Henry suddenly started to laugh. I looked up at him, bewildered. "What are you laughing at?" Henry leaned down close to me, his fingers tracing my cheek, smoothing my messy hair. "You said he's not even fit to tie my shoes, so can I take that to mean you might have some feelings for me too?" Actually, I'd already come up with that answer when I was rushing downstairs, but now that Henry asked, I suddenly felt a little shy about saying it. Who knew Henry had so little patience? His face instantly darkened, and he looked like he was about to leave again. I quickly wrapped my arms around his waist. Yes. I blurted out. I like you. What do you think of that? The surroundings fell silent, and I started to inwardly groan. A confession was a confession, but why did it feel like I was proposing marriage? I really was. Luna, wasn't that a bit aggressive for a confession? But since you've said it, what can I do? Of course, I'll be your boyfriend. I suddenly regretted my decision today. I had a feeling Henry hadn't been genuinely angry at all. He had set a trap for me, deliberately getting me to say it myself. But I didn't regret saying it. It was going to come out eventually anyway. This whole situation just forced me to acknowledge my true feelings. I tugged on Henry's sleeve and whispered, "Fine, boyfriend." Henry took my hand and led me upstairs. I had his suit jacket draped over my shoulders and saw that Ethan still hadn't left. He was just standing at my door. Now, just seeing Ethan felt like a nuisance. I wanted to go over and tell him to leave quickly, but Henry held my hand back. I looked at him, puzzled. "Go on in. Luna. I'll handle him." I was about to say, "Don't fight," but then I thought, just beat Ethan up still. Before going in, I pulled Henry's hand and said, "If you're going to hit him, remember to protect yourself. I don't want to see you get hurt." After hearing my words, Henry's lips curled into a smile he couldn't hide. Ethan, meanwhile, looked utterly defeated. But none of that mattered to me anymore. I entered the password and went straight inside. Sitting on the couch, my shaky legs slowly recovered a bit. I got ready to tell Sarah about everything that had happened that evening. Before I could even finish sending the message, I heard Henry opening the door. I was surprised by how quickly he'd returned, and I couldn't help but scan him from head to toe. Afraid he might have gotten hurt. "It's done. A coward like him couldn't possibly beat me." "You actually hit him? What? Are you feeling bad for him?" When said that, his eyebrow twitched slightly, as if he'd go ballistic if I dared utter the word. I gave an ingratiating smile. "Of course not. I was just worried you might get hurt." Henry let out an unreadable chuckle, then sat down next to me and pulled me into his arms. "I didn't hit him. With that slender build, I was afraid I'd send him to the hospital with just a couple of punches." I leaned comfortably into Henry's embrace. "So what did you say to him?" "I told him that if he ever bothered you again, I'd make sure his company went bankrupt. He betrayed you over company matters once, so he certainly wouldn't dare bother you again if it meant losing his company." That indeed sounded like something Ethan would do. What puzzled me, though, was that he still didn't know my identity. So why would he suddenly seek me out to get back together, especially given Victoria's personality? She definitely wouldn't allow him to have contact with other women. However, the answer to that question came quickly. On the day Henry insisted on sleeping in my bed, even going so far as to douse his own bed with water, news of Ethan and Victoria calling off their engagement also reached me through various friends. Looking at Henry, who was contentedly sleeping beside me, I reached out and poked him. "Does this have something to do with you?" Henry leaned over and glanced at my phone. Then he let out a scoff. "Am I that kind of person?" He was two-timing and Victoria found out, forcing them to call off the engagement. What could I do about that? So, Ethan had cheated again. A leopard can't change its spots, indeed. I was about to say something else to my friend when Henry reached over and snatched my phone. Then he pulled me into the comforter. "All right, Luna, time for bed." "Henry, your bed is wet, but your comforter isn't." "Who said you could share mine?" "The comforter is dirty." "How did it get dirty?" "Got dirty thinking about you." "Henry." What is it, sweetie?" "You pervert." Ever since Victoria broke off their engagement, Ethan's company had gone downhill fast. The already struggling company completely declared bankruptcy, and he couldn't stay here anymore. I just hadn't expected the audacity of this man. Now he was starting to think of me. He called me with harassment calls every day, changing his methods. I blocked one number after another. But the guy was truly persistent and kept calling daily. One night as I was falling asleep, a new call came in. I hesitated whether to answer it so I could permanently block that number. Perhaps my hesitation lasted a bit too long, as Henry leaned over. He glanced at the caller ID and took the phone directly from my hand. "Call my wife again, and see what happens. I'll make sure you can't even accomplish anything back in your small town." The person on the other end didn't say a word, and Henry immediately hung up. He tossed the phone onto the nightstand. Then, with an unamused expression, he cupped my chin and kissed me. When the kiss ended, he scoffed, "Look at the kind of jerk you use. D to be interested in. Can he even do half of what I can?" Although can do could have two meanings, I couldn't shake the feeling Henry's implication leaned towards the less innocent one. I quickly tried to appease him. I didn't even answer his calls, I was just going to block him. Humph, good thing you're smart. If there's a next time, just tell me directly. Okay. Henry's proposal came as a complete surprise. Perhaps I hadn't expected him to be in such a hurry. There weren't many people present, but all our most important loved ones were there. The wedding date was set for the near future, and he didn't hold an engagement party, because he said he didn't want to wait any longer. So we went directly to register our marriage. How incredibly lucky I was to meet someone who had liked me for so many years. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.